All right, all right, all right. You already know who it is. Father Moo on the ones and zeros. And Sunday morning, we're in the big church, baby. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Father Moo show. So many things I want to do today, but I'll just dive right in. Just give you a little rant at the beginning. One of the, I guess, a new viewer of the channel logged on and he left a comment and said he liked the stream and he decided to go out and buy a Nord Modular G1 rack. And he said he used to have the keyboard version. Maybe that wasn't available to him. Maybe he has space constraints. I don't know. But I was very happy to see that someone had gotten back into modular programming or into this particular flavor of modular programming just because of my little stream. And I know we all live in a world where there's the terrible syndrome known as gas gear acquisition syndrome. I know that that's not really a good thing when you evaluate all the pluses and minuses, and I am certainly a victim of that syndrome. I spend too much money on synthesizers. I can say it. I can admit it here on the show. I've got a problem. But at the same time, if I was going to tell people to buy exactly one hardware synth, it would definitely be a G1 or a G2 Nord Modular. I just think you're going to get so much bang out of it. Like, I'm not saying it can do everything every keyboard can do, but there's a very powerful combination between modular and digital. And the reason I'm bringing this up, not just to tell one of my commenters that I agree with his comment, which I'm happy to do, but because I wanted people to think about this for a moment. Think about if you didn't buy a Nord Modular. Think about if you bought a USB MIDI controller for your keyboard. Well, you can choose brand X or brand Y. I'm not into arguing about that right now, but if you look at most of the modern USB MIDI controllers on the market, they're going to be pretty similar. Number one, they're going to have a keyboard. It could be 2 octaves. It could be 5. Another thing, they're going to have a little joystick or some, pitch and modulation wheels to the left of the keyboard. And then probably above the keyboard, they're going to have some combination of assignable knobs, assignable sliders, and little drum pads, which they are often referred to as like MPC-style pads to use for finger drumming. And most people who use a DAW to record would say, if you have one of these, you can do it all. You can use a keyboard to enter notes like a traditional keyboardist, and you can use the little joystick with the keyboard to do your cool solo, give it some liveliness. And if you want to dub out like Lee Perry, you can use the sliders and the knobs to adjust your effects or your volume levels, or like a modern DJ would on the turntables. And if you want to be Jay Dilla and hammer out the beats, you can use the little pads on the MPC pads. And those are all great interfaces. It's cool that designers have said, okay, well, people don't want to spend the money on all the hardware behind all those things, but they still need those interfaces to enter their MIDI data into the computer in order to express themselves in a variety of styles. What am I leading up to here? I'm leading up to the fact that I think that the patch cables on a modular are also a kind of important interface that we shouldn't disparage. I'm just throwing up an example here on the thing, but you can see we have virtual knobs, and we have virtual switches. We can take a mixer like this one, although it doesn't give me sliders, but it gives me knobs that control volume, so I can still do those performance aspects. But I would say that just having the ability to route one module to another, to be able to design how you want to do that, how you want to have the freedom to say, I'm going to send this oscillator and this oscillator into this mixer, and then I'm going to send them to the ADSR. And instead of putting a filter before those oscillators and after the oscillators, I'm going to put it after the envelope just to be different. Why? Because I want to design my own system. That may not seem like as expressive an interface as like drumming on the MPC pads in real time or soloing on the keyboard, but I think it's very important. It allows you to, it gives you a deeper amount of control than a synth, like say a Prophet 6 or 8 would give you, where the oscillators and filters and envelopes are already in place. The designer has said, I think this is where I'm going to put them, and if you want to reroute them, you can't. I'm very sorry about that. In fact, we often associate modular programming with monophonic notes, but as we've seen many times in this stream, you can do polyphonic modular. The Nord modular is set up to do that. You can choose voices up here, and you can have the requested voices and then what it actually gives you. But yeah, I think people need to recognize that the patch cable is also a part of expression that shouldn't be discarded just because we went from the hardware world to the DAW world. I remember when Reason came out and everyone's like, look, you can flip the rack, you flip from the front to the back of the rack, and then you can patch these little virtual patch cables. Isn't that crazy? But no, they were geniuses, and they were preserving something of developed for a hardware system, which I think you maybe not playing it in real time, but it's giving you a kind of expression that you literally aren't allowed to do if you only have a fixed hardware synth, a fixed architecture synth. You can take a 303 and you can program a pattern into a 303, and you can tweak the filter a bit, but it's always going to kind of sound like a 303. You can run it through a distortion box, but you're going to end up, your amount of expression is going to be limited. And you take a look at something like the one made by the B-Word company, TD3-MO, the modded out one, with a bunch more functions and patch points. I would definitely choose that as something which is going to allow me to, find my own kind of sound or program a new and interesting sound. So yeah, anyway, that's it for my little introductory rant there. Let's leave it at that and get straight to the patch of the day. Patch of the day. I joke that I treat this stream as my therapy now, but I definitely have these rants, and I have friends that I'm in a chat group with, and sometimes they don't want to hear it, so I thought I'd maybe put it up here and torture you guys with it instead. That's the way it goes. I could go on longer, trust me, but I'm not going to. Okay, today's topic. Today I have a pretty simple one. I was just sitting around and I was looking at my... I have a pretty small drum machine collection, but I have more than a few people and less than many people. And one of them that I keep coming back to is the Arturia Impact, the Drum Brute Impact, which I really enjoy, especially because of the flexibility and analog sounds that you can program yourself. Most of the sounds are pretty typical analog drums, but one of the channels is an FM drum. And that's kind of what I wanted to do today. I wanted to put together a simple little pattern here. I think I'm going to need 2 of these event sequencers, so I'll just do that. But I'm going to drop in a couple of normal drums just to be our guide, just so we can hear where the 1 and the 3 is. But more importantly than those guide drums, I want to work on some metallic or FM sounding drums today. In fact, I had to go back and look through the archive and see if I've already done this. I know I designed some drums from scratch, but they were more of an analog design, I think. So we're going for more of a FM, or we may do some ring mod to get more metallic sounds today. But as I said, we're going to start with the normal part, so let's just put in some... I think I'll put in kick and snare for the purposes of this guide pattern. Oh, this is not going to be enough, is it? Let's give me... 3 is definitely not going to be enough. There we go. So I got 2 of the standard sort of drum synths here. You can pretty much forget about those. Those are basically my metronome. I'm not doing much with their sound design. I'm not trying to make them sound awesome. I am just trying to have a guide so that when I get my real drums set up, I know what kind of... I have a reference point for the kind of the beat I want to follow. So this first sequence here will just trigger those patterns. And we can go ahead and do this. Clock in. The reset here. And just dial my volume up. Okay, that'll do just fine. So we got a nice boring little kick and snare pad in there. I'm not too stressed about it. Let's go ahead and look at our more interesting voices. I will say I did a little bit of cheating today. I want to come clean on that. I went on YouTube and I was like, okay, let's see how other people do FM drums. I figured I had an idea of how they were done. I'm certainly not an expert FM programmer, very, very far from it. I sadly bought a FM synth specifically to learn to program, and I never got anywhere on it. But I haven't sold it yet, so I guess there's still hope for the future. Why don't we try this bad boy? So, here we have two sine waves. We've certainly heard some interesting sound creation in this stream before using just these two guys and a simple envelope. So, yeah, I'm going to hook this sequencer up identically, and I put some notes into the into there. So here's a little pattern just for the for our first snare, our first metallic sound. So I patched the slave and master oscillator together, and I send the output of the second oscillator into the FM input of the first one. Then I don't actually use this output in my signal chain. I just use the FM modulated version of this, and we should get something here. Okay, so right off the bat, I want to dial down the decay. I don't know if you're listening to my voice, but my voice has reverb on it, but I've killed all the reverb on the sound card here for the actual synth. So we're not getting any reverb in the mix there. And by dialing the decay down, I go from a note to a percussion hit. There's no magic number, but... Right. So if I take something like clocked random step generator, steal the clock from here, and patch it into the pitch input, I'm going to make my notes a bit more all over the place. But I'm still not getting a lot of FM because the tuning of these two oscillators is identical. So I'm going to detune this one now. And there we've got it. Not that we're done, but there's a good starting point. It's definitely a metallic type of sound. It's definitely a percussive type of sound. And the pitch is just kind of all over the place, but the shorter your decay is, the less people will hear that as a melodic pitch to be, thought of as part of the tonal quality of your pattern. Let's experiment with the FM a bit here. So you can get more metallic like this if you want to. Seems like this would be a good parameter to have under one of your knob settings. Maybe we'll do that closer to the end. If anything, I would say that my pattern here isn't really helping my rhythmic sense. Try dialing the pitch input down a little. I think it's okay where it was. I'm going to experiment a bit here with a third oscillator, another slave sine-osc. So connect this as well. Going to move this guy down here. And I'm going to use the third one to modulate the second one into his FM input here. So he also is going to get detuned away from the normal. And then open this up. So now we've got a bit more complicated sort of FM metallic drum sound here. I'm thinking, just bear with me here for a sec. Okay, let's just put that cymbal instead of a snare. I'm trying to think if I can mix in my metallic sound with a bit of white noise to get a more of a snare-like sound. Since the pitch is all over the place, it's not going to be a normal sounding snare, but I want to see what happens, basically. So how am I going to do that? First of all, I'm going to take a noise generator, put it in with my oscillator collection. I think I'm probably going to need a filter. Let's take the multi-mode filter. This is now my envelope area, so I'm going to put another envelope here. And he's going to trigger on the same gate. So I guess these could be mixed together in a submixer. I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm just going to plug it straight into the board here. So let's send the output of the filter. It's in the bandpass mode. And the input of the filter is white noise. There we go. So now the white noise has a much longer decay, so we're going to have to dial it down. Let's make it the same number for now, but they may change. You can barely hear it there. And I think I'm going to take this slightly weird tonal information and send that to the filter's frequency input as well. First I'm going to, well, I don't know if it needs that much resonance. Let's just open this up a bit. So you see now, because the filter is being modulated by this clocked LFO, the white noise gets to sort of stick out of the mix at bits more, and then it fades back in at other times. Still think I could get a bit better on the sound here. Let's try. Maybe it's this that's the problem. Cool, actually. FM tends to give you kind of like zappy sounds, I guess you could call them. I think that's a neat sound. It's definitely not a traditional snare, but it's doing some of the jobs of a snare, if you see what I mean. Yeah. Okay, let's go on and see if we can make up another metallic drum here. I'm going to take two more, I think, sine waves. I'm not really worrying about the load on the system at this time because I don't think I can get anywhere close to overdriving it. Now I have to find where the ring modulator is kept, maybe in audio. There it is. So send one into here, and one into the modulator. And these guys, of course, will have to be detuned as well. And we'll get another envelope here. And send the output of that into here. So I'm going to send him a different gated pattern from the sequencer. Maybe on the 5 and on the... I could probably get away with that. Yeah, let's try that. Actually, that's a good start. I think it's now amplitude modifying, but let's go towards ring mod. And again, we're going to dial the decay down. That's neat. I can't tell if I like it better over here or... Let's try assigning a modulation depth. Let's put it on here. And then assign that to the LFO. A bit more. How about if we start here? It's not really doing it for me. Let's dial it back again. There we go. Give it a little space to breathe. And I think just to finish us off here, this is not a whole song. This is just a pattern experiment thingy, but I just want to trust what my ear is telling me to do, so I'm going to do it. I'm going back to the old drum sound synth. As I said, I know this is not really creative work on my part, but the main thing I want to offer is the chance to maybe mix in some percussion, since this the percussive sounds we've made are pretty unconventional, to say the least. So my idea is to put in a couple more like percussion sounds, and I'm going to trigger them from the pattern generator just to be random, I guess. So there's a couple of pattern generators just doing their thing. Send their outputs to these percussions. and send the outputs to the mixer. Convenient, I have a mixer. It's not filled up yet. And now I'm going to go down to the bottom section of the presets and find my this is what I was kind of thinking of, but let's cancel the pattern generators. I think we've got the sequencers going. We should just use another event sequencer here. If I use the clock pattern generators, I get too many notes. I need a more minimalistic sort of approach. Okay, here we go. Let's try again. Let's make sure we got everything reset to the same thing. There we go. Hold on a sec. Well, there we're using percussion 3 and 4 as just sort of complementary bongos. We could try this. Yeah. So it's a weird little beat, but it does have a... I like this approach. I like making my own percussion from nothing, and I like going at it without a complete understanding of how it works. But I think the FM stuff is, at least some of it, you put the oscillators together in their configuration, and then you gotta do some knob twiddling until you find what you like. There's a huge amount of tonal quality here. It doesn't have to be my zaps. It can be this or... Oh, it's a lot more snare-like down there. Or just keep those envelopes short and do some sound design of your own until you find what you like. I think that was my original sound. See, there's a lot in there in the FMA. The amount of FM is being applied as well. You can do crazy stuff like use this one to send feedback to itself. I don't really know if that's better though. Cool. Okay, so yeah, I guess my advice is, especially if you just got a new Nord Modular, do not stick to the default drum sounds. Just find something that will make a complex pattern, or sorry, something that will generate a lot of tonal color and let you dial around in the sounds for interesting sounds and run that into a short envelope and you're halfway there. So I'm going to call this FM Metal Drums. And that's what it is. Absolutely not my greatest and most listenable sequence in all history, but you gotta have the freedom to just make sounds too, right? So I still think it's kind of funky, even just with the bit of hi-hat here. Reminds me a little bit of the 808's percussion section, but definitely not a copy. Anyway, I just want to say thanks again. You have no idea how much the comments and the feedback keep me going. Even just the old slap on the back is pretty great. I don't really go out and do live shows these days. I'm thinking of getting back into it, but I was also thinking about it a year ago when I started doing these streams. So, yeah, the YouTube channel makes me very happy, and I'm going to be on vacation at the end of this week just for 4 days. So this might actually be my last Nord Modular stream for the week, depending on my schedule here. But you can go to Twitch and check out some weird sounds, and I'll try to record some hardware synth stuff as well, and just keep on doing what I'm doing. If you want to support me on Patreon, there's a link in the description, and most of all, just keep on coming back, because you're the people I'm doing this for. The congregation, Father Moon. Thanks again. We'll see you next Sunday in the big church.